the Yahoo-Verizon deal, as a result of which Yahoo will be bought by Verizon for a sum of $4.8 billion. It indeed is the end of an era, so to speak, because Yahoo was an iconic company in the Valley, founded more than 2 decades back. Now, as part of this deal, Verizon will acquire the mail business of Yahoo, messaging, as well as its internet advertising business. But the two portions that it will not get as part of the deal includes Yahoo Japan, as well as, importantly, the stake that Yahoo has in Alibaba. But remember, this comes after years of prolonged struggle by Yahoo. While it started out as a pioneer as far as the internet is concerned, it gradually lost ground to the likes of Google and then Facebook. Even in internet advertising, it's a distant third compared to where Google and Facebook are. Now, importantly, Marissa Mayer, who was, remember, hired just 4 years back in an effort to turn around Yahoo. For now, she says she will continue to stay on with Yahoo AOL. But remember, as part of this deal, she also gets a hefty severance package of over $50 million. To really discuss the ramifications that this will have on the internet ecosystem and also the implications for India, we're joined by very special guests on the show. Naveen Tiwari, the co-founder and CEO of InMobi, joins us all the way from China. Naveen is, of course, a poster boy as far as entrepreneurs in India are concerned. We also have Sanat Rao. He's a venture partner with IDG Ventures and also the head of M&A at iSpirit, someone who played a key role in helping Yahoo acquire its first startup in India, BookPad. We will also be joined by Sharat Sharma, who's, and the context here is really important because remember, he was the MD of Yahoo India R&D. Sanat, both from a perspective of a venture capitalist and someone who's also worked with Yahoo, you know, in their M&A with respect to startups here, what's your own sense as far as this deal is concerned?
Yeah, so first of all, thanks for having me on the show. So I think let's look at this in perspective. Yahoo was the original internet company, right? So this is a company that, when all of us had just come out of college, we were in the workforce, this is the company that we all looked up to. And so today, in some ways, is a sad day, right? It is Yahoo is one of the big icons of Silicon Valley, and that company has now got acquired for what seems to be a very small figure. So it's a sad end to, I think, what was at some point one of the behemoths of the internet economy.
Sharat, talk to us from the perspective of someone who headed Yahoo India R&D operations here in India many years back. Was this, in a sense, inevitable? Because, I mean, it's really not been relevant as far as internet companies go. I know it's a winner-takes-all world, but even within that, Yahoo really hasn't been able to find its niche, has it?
Yeah, so I think the writing was on the wall for the last 3-4 years, and so this is not a surprise at all. I think, had it been sold off earlier, it would have realized better value for the shareholders. And this, to me, this is what is really special about our tech industry, that it is constantly reinventing itself. And, the lifetime of a successful company is probably a couple of decades, which is what Yahoo has had. And you can see that's been the case traditionally with our industry, especially on the internet side. Nobody remembers MySpace. We all talk about Facebook. Youngsters are losing interest in Facebook. Snapchat is going up, right? I mean, so this is a creative destruction that is ongoing part of our industry, and every company leaves a new ring in the trees. It's a new tree ring, and it has a role and a place, and it helps build the industry and make it much stronger. And Yahoo has made its contribution, as Sanat pointed out.
Right. Naveen, I believe we have you on the show from China. Take us through your own sense. I mean, would you say this is one of the saddest deals, so to speak, in tech history?
Look, I think it'll be a stretch to actually call it a sad deal. I actually think it's a, depending on which side you look at this, it's actually a pretty interesting deal. I think what Sharath mentioned was interesting. That look, the asset had its own limited, had a shelf life, and I think it was diminishing that shelf life. I think the asset that Yahoo had has contained a lot of ad tech stack with it, and albeit it was a lot more of a PC ad tech stack that Yahoo had. I think that had a lot of value. And it's a very interesting asset that Verizon bought, where it is clearly creating a much stronger front, um, at least by collecting pretty strong assets which are out there in the US. I think the ad tech stack of Yahoo, especially on the PC side, is something which is pretty strongly getting valued and getting validated against the fact that the digital advertising space is going to be much larger. So while on one front there is a sadness of the lack of independence of an iconic brand, which is a lot more emotions around that, I think far more fundamentally, I think this creates a very strong front and in the advertising space.
Right, right. Thanks for that perspective, Naveen. Sharath, would you agree there that, perhaps it's not a really sad day as some people are making it out to be, that the dynamics are quite interesting now with Yahoo becoming a part of Verizon?
Absolutely. I feel, we are entering a new era where, Verizon is fearful of becoming just a pipe provider. It doesn't want to be a pipe provider. Therefore, it is going to accumulate assets that let it be a content provider, and therefore also offer advertising, because that's an alternate revenue model for them. And keep in mind, we are, months away from somebody like Reliance Jio trying the same strategy at significant scale here in India. So this is not merely something that is happening there in the US, but we'll see the same strategy being implemented here in India as well. And Amazon's already expressed an interest in being a significant media player, offering content. So we are entering a new era in many ways, and it will be interesting to see how all this plays out over the next few years.
Right. Sanat, I want to take it to, the startup connection here, because you also played a role in BookPad, a startup in Bangalore, getting acquired by Yahoo. Take us through that experience, and, what was it like working with Yahoo? Because it seemed that, they were really on an acquisition spree then, very keen to work with a lot of startups.
Yeah. So Yahoo was one of the most acquisitive companies in the Silicon Valley. And if I remember, I think they acquired 100 companies over 5 years. And acquisitions was a very core part of Marissa Mayer's strategy. And, as you said, Yahoo did acquire an Indian company, BookPad, and we worked very closely with Yahoo on the deal. It was actually a very positive experience, both for us and for the startup BookPad that got acquired. Yahoo really had the whole acquisition process down to an art. And it was one of the fastest deals that I've ever worked on. The whole thing, I think, closed in 5 weeks or 6 weeks, which usually never happens. And they knew exactly what they were looking for. They knew exactly how to, acquire a company and integrate it into their core engineering team and make the most out of it. So from that perspective, it was a good experience. And again, we're really sad to see such an iconic company go away.
Right. Sanat, just a follow-up question there. Are the BookPad founders still with Yahoo? Any idea? Have you had a chance to check with them? What happens now?
Yes, so the answer is that yes, absolutely. They're all part of Yahoo, and they're part of the Yahoo engineering team. And I haven't spoken to them in the last few hours, but I'm assuming that they all move as part of the acquisition to Verizon.
Right. And Naveen, clearly this underscores the changing dynamics as far as content is concerned, as far as media is concerned, and advertising is concerned. What does it really mean for a company like InMobi to operate in such an environment? Because companies are just, getting disrupted every few years. It's such a dynamic world out there. What does this really mean for startups or for, unicorns like you in that sense?
Look, I think there are a few things that get validated with this pretty interestingly, especially from an InMobi perspective. One is the ad tech market is significantly large. If you look at the deal at the core of it, it's Verizon's first party data that Verizon has of all its users, clubbed with the ad tech stack, which is a PC stack that Yahoo brings along, combined with the AOL ad tech stack. So I think clearly from an InMobi perspective, this clearly is a great deal because it outlines the value of ad tech in the world going forward. It also articulates and very clearly outlines the fact that the world will effectively have a very strong digital advertising play. Now, the deal doesn't necessarily bring out as much strength on the mobile ad tech side, but that is something that they can work on in future. But as far as the Indian startup ecosystem or the startups in general, I think this is a sign of consolidation. In any industry, the consolidation will happen. There will be these very, very large players who will look into the internet space, and they need not act on that to begin with, but they can always, and that's the example that Verizon sets up here very interestingly, that in the last 2 years, it has basically made acquisitions between AOL and Yahoo. And actually, if you look deeper, they have actually acquired AOL, they acquired Millennial Media, they acquired NextAge, they acquired Yahoo assets, they acquired Flurry, they've acquired Brightroll. So there are about 6 to 8 companies just in the ad tech space that they've actually acquired with these two acquisitions in the last 2 years, clearly indicating that how very, very large companies should make the shift in this fast, dynamically changing world. So I think it's a great sign altogether. Companies like Amazon, Facebook, Google, they will all, depending on their strengths and weaknesses, will effectively come in and do such strategic moves in order to change the world. I think the entire world of telecom.
Right, right. Let me take it back to Sharad Sharma. Sharad, if you're there, if you can just tell me from an ex-Yahoo perspective, as someone who headed its R&D ops here, what does this really mean for Yahoo in India? I mean, in the last few years, the only things that we have heard about Yahoo India are perhaps, layoffs, them coming down on their R&D operations here. So from a Yahoo India perspective, what's the takeaway from this deal here? What does it really mean for what is left of Yahoo's operations in India?
Yahoo in India, the team has already moved on, frankly. I think they're all in different startups. There are many startups that have been born out of this Yahoo mafia that exists. So I don't think there was a very big footprint left to start with. And so I don't think there is a material impact of this kind of acquisition at this point in time. Yahoo did build a very strong tech culture here. And those techies, they got snapped up very quickly in the last few years, and they've ended up being in leadership positions in many other places. So I don't think it is going to materially alter anything. There'll be Yahoo Mafia get-togethers to discuss this, but other than that, I don't think it will have any other impact.
I'm wondering if you're planning a Yahoo Mafia get-together yourself, Sharad, over the next few days. But before that, I also want to ask you about, what it means. Because there's been too many past Yahoo India MDs, I imagine.
Yeah, no, there are.
Sharad, from the perspective.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah, Sharad, from the perspective of, leadership here, Marissa Mayer, do you think the criticism was pretty unfair on her in a sense? She was brought in at a very difficult time, really given an impossible mission when Yahoo was already in the doldrums, and she's been given 4 years' time, a lot of scrutiny during that period, right from, the time she took off for maternity, right from, her banning the work from home policy. What larger message does this send out when it comes to, women breaking the glass ceiling or, encouraging women leadership at tech companies?
I don't know about the women part, frankly, Chandra, but my own view is that Marissa was the wrong CEO for Yahoo at that time. What Yahoo needed was a CEO. They didn't need a better operator of the existing machine, but they needed a person who would come and reimagine what the machine itself should be, right? And what Marissa was a better operator of the existing machine. And that wasn't the right thing for Yahoo at that time. And she did a good job. She toned up the organization. She focused more on product design and improved the work ethic. All that is fine, but what Yahoo needed was to reimagine its future in a completely different way than what it had done in the past. It needed to do what Nokia did at one time, which was to go from rubber boot making to phone making, right? It needed to do what Intel had done at one time, to go from memory chips to microprocessors. So Yahoo needed a reboot of that kind, and that wasn't the forte that Marissa had. Marissa's forte was running the existing ship much better, and that by itself wasn't going to do anything. And this is why my view is that it would have been much better for the board to actually have sold the Yahoo assets many years back, 2, 3, 4 years back, because they would have just realized a much better value for the shareholders as a result of doing that. So I don't see this issue at all in gender terms. I see this more in the context of you needed non-linear change, and you needed a CEO who could deliver that, and that wasn't Marissa Mayer. So that's really the way I think it panned out for Yahoo.
Right. Last few minutes of this discussion, and before I take it to Naveen and Sanat, Sharad, a follow-up question for you there. In terms of the lessons that Indian internet companies or startups can glean from this, because Yahoo was the poster boy when it started out, an iconic company more than 2 decades back. Before people knew about Gmail, I'm sure every one of us had a Yahoo Mail, or we used a Yahoo Messenger. 22 years is a long time, but much of that was spent really trying to find its niche. So what lessons does this have for internet companies and startups, Sharad?
Yeah, I would say more than internet and startups. I think this is lessons for larger companies. You look at IT services, that is also reaching its end of its S-curve. Enormously successful, but not because of company performance, but because of the nature of the market itself is changing. That S-curve is coming to an end. So if you have to find a new CEO, you need to find a new CEO who will find you the second S-curve that the company can ride. Just running the first S-curve much better than before is not going to cut it. And this is a battle that you will see that will play out in all these IT services firms. Infosys has already seen a CEO change, but it's interesting to watch what happens with others. This is also what is going to happen to banks in India, because banks will change more in the next 10 years than they've changed in the last 50 years. And so again, if you see a CEO change, the question that you have to ask yourself, is this new CEO just going to be a better operator of the existing engine, or will this person be able to reimagine the engine itself? And that's a question I think that we have to ask. And the lesson that Yahoo leaves for us is that for the board to ask that question and make a clear determination of what they need is very important. And if they don't do that right, then you don't get good outcomes, no matter how competent that CEO may be. And Marissa was competent, but she was not the right CEO for Yahoo at all.
Right. Sanat, moving away from that, coming back to startups, what impact do you think this could have there, considering, we haven't seen engagement from Yahoo after BookPad, whereas Google and Facebook have been very active in the Indian startup ecosystem?
I think there's two implications here for the Indian ecosystem. First of all, just from as Yahoo was very, very acquisitive, and we worked very closely with them. And they did acquire one company, BookPad. They looked at a bunch of others, and what we're hoping is that that concept of acquiring very high quality technology, we hope that that does not stop once Yahoo becomes part of Verizon. Right? So we hope that continues, because that will be very important for us as we over the next 1 or 2 years, because there are some very, very high quality companies in India that would be great fits at Verizon, AOL, Yahoo. So that is one. And I think secondly, just if you just take a step back, what happened was Yahoo was a giant, but they missed a lot of the new tech waves, right? They missed the social revolution, they missed the mobile revolution, and they were disrupted by much smaller companies. And so that is another lesson for the Indian startup ecosystem, that, hey, if you're doing something that is very new, it's two people sitting in a garage in Bangalore can actually theoretically disrupt a big company.
Right. Naveen, I believe you're if you can add to that the broad lessons that this has for entrepreneurs, for startups, because we're seeing a big wave, now like never before. We see so many startups every other day in different business models. But if there are lessons to draw from Yahoo's own journey, what would they be?
Look, I think, Sharat talked about a specific, change in S-curve. And I think, that's completely correct and valid. But I think there was something which was missed even before the new S-curve had been found by Yahoo. And I think that was within its first, dimension of growth, where I think, and that's where the learning, I think, for the ecosystem exists, is to be a very technology and product-centric company, such that, what Sanat, pointed out, where Yahoo missed several technological changes that were happening just around itself, and therefore reached a stage where it is reached today. I think from an Indian ecosystem or any ecosystem perspective, one has to ensure that they are a technology-led and a product-led company as against sales-led. And I think that change is very, very critical in the mindset of entrepreneurs as they look at the companies going forward. Otherwise, you would have to have a 10, 12-year battle, which Yahoo had, by the way, where it was always trying to just figure out how to survive. And that's not good for an iconic brands like this and many others. It's not good to basically be trying to survive. And then, if the outcome is good or bad is secondary, but that journey is just not good.
Right. Naveen, Sanat and Sharat, thank you so much for joining us on the special edition of ET Now Startup Central. It's clearly the end of an era as far as Yahoo is concerned, over 2 decades. But as Naveen said, it spent over a decade just trying to figure out its niche. And after a prolonged struggle, it's finally been sold to Verizon. But remember, this is part of its business. What remains is the stake that it has in Alibaba as well as Yahoo Japan.
Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/ETNow. And don't forget to click the like button. You can also follow us on Twitter at ETNowLive. To stay updated with all our programming, hit the subscribe button on our YouTube channel by logging on to youtube.com/user/ETNow.